good morning, everybody. Happy Friday to you. It is great to see everybody. Yes, I am in my car today. I am doing a little driving. We are multitasking today, but let me just tell you, safety first as always. But we're doing a little multitasking we got going on. Happy Friday, everybody. Lisa's here. My cousin Rob Pettit is here. As always, let's see, we got Claudia's here this morning. Jan, welcome. Got a couple new people on here. Facebook world, good morning to you in the Facebook world. Thank you for being on here today. It is our infamous Figure It Out Friday show today, and we have a really good one today for you. I've been blessed to be able to meet Mark personally and get to know him over the last year with Coach Burt and his organization. So I got a really good guest for you. But before we bring Mark on, I want to wish everybody a good morning to you. If this is your first Mr. Kastner's I feel like you, Mike. I am driving in my car today. I'm in Virginia right now on my way to Delaware, and wanted to wish everybody a happy Friday. Guys, if this is the first time you're being on here, in the Facebook world as well, tell us where you're from, where you're located. You never know. You could have a neighbor on here that you had no idea about. As well as we got different entrepreneurs on here. Tell us what you do. Could have some business opportunities as well. It's always about connecting. So good morning, everybody. My name is Brock Zevan, life coach, business coach, real estate agent, and a DAD. And Brielle is still at camp. She is having a good old time. I saw some pictures of her. She is completely muddy, and I can only imagine. It just reminded me of being a kid. Like, you know, when we as adults get all muddy and wet and like dirty, we're just like, this is gross. Like, I just can't wait to shower. But she has the biggest smile on her face. She doesn't care how many handprints of mud are all over her shirt. It was just such a cute little thing. Like, she's just completely drenched, but she's having a good old time. She's at church camp till Saturday. How many of you been to church camp? How many of you put a thumbs up? I used to go to Boy Scout camp. Anybody been to like different camps that you went to that you just remember as a child? Go back to memory lane. Just go back to memory lane really quickly to think about that, because it's just nice to think about those happy thoughts instead of the chaos in our life. It's just nice to be able to have those happy thoughts of what it used to be like at camp. I miss those days. Anyways, but good morning, everybody. Let's do our affirmation. If for those of your first time on here, just move your mouth. You'll eventually catch on to it. But our affirmation, as always, is something good is going to happen to me. Something good is going to happen through me. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. So this Friday, we have my main man, Mark Shaffer from, him and I met when I was with Coach Burt. And I just saw the guy. He was kind of like all over the place, and he was walking around, and he was just always on the move, always constantly on the move. I'm like, what does this guy do? Like, what is he all about over here? Like, what does he got going on? And just to let you know, I do have a backup in case I do freeze. Stephanie is on hand just to give you in case like something happens to me. Don't you worry. Don't leave. Mark already knows too. We were going to continue on with the show, but just want to give you a quick little segment to let you know about that. But so when I saw Mark, quick little introduction. How you doing? Blah, blah, blah. I really didn't know too much about the guy. And then being up with Coach Burt, going up to Lodge a couple of times, I started to learn a little bit about him, and I shared a little bit of my story. And then it's kind of those things like, look how like crisp and sharp and professional Mark looks right now. And that's how he always looks. He was like a fine dresser. I'm like, damn, this guy's like sharp. And so I started just like peeling the onion back on him, open and reading more of his pages, the book of, his life. And I was just like in awe. I was just like, damn, man. Like you literally, that took place. And it was just amazing to me to hear about this guy's story and what was going on with him and his business and the partnership and it was just like one of those that my jaw kept dropping. I was just like, wow, seriously? Wow, I can't believe that. And so today I asked Mark, I said, Mark, would you mind sharing that story with us? Would you mind giving us a little insight of what that was all about? And he's like, yeah, not a problem at all. And so, Mark, let's bring you to the stage, man. Good morning, brother. Good morning. How are you?
Doing great, man. How are you doing? I see you're driving.
I am driving and going through getting off an exit here, but we are making it happen. We are making it happen.
You're coming
But
through loud and clear.
man, what's that?
Said you're coming through loud and clear. Everything's
Oh, perfect. Perfect, man. Listen, brother, I appreciate you being on here. As I told you earlier, being vulnerable, being spiritual, we're pretty much wide open. You could share whatever you want on this Figured Out Friday. But I'm going to ask you to kind of like open up with us and tell us how you had to figure it out of what you had going on in your life and what that looked like and kind of where you are today and what that's all about. And, feel free to kind of share whatever starting point you feel is best for our audience on here. We got everybody all over the different parts of the country, different ages, different entrepreneurs, but I'll let you take the microphone, brother.
Okay, man. And any questions, you have, Brock, if you feel like you want to chime in, of course, we've talked about that. So fire away. I will begin this one particular aspect of my life had to do with the clothing business that I got into sort of by chance. I'd come to Nashville from West Virginia directly with my family without a job or a friend, which is maybe not the best way to move into an area as the leader of my home, but things worked out. I met a guy and we opened a business together. He had the idea and we did luxury consignment. We started with men. We opened it in 2005. We built it for, 15 years together from 0 to 17 employees, a couple million in revenue, 2 stores, 5,000 square feet each store, right on 8th Avenue South here in Nashville. And so things were clicking along pretty good. COVID came around, and I think, I'm not really sure what happened to my business partner totally, but he went down a very dark path. And the bottom line, stole everything. And there's a lot I could tell you the details about that, but at 63 I sort of woke up with nothing from that 15 years, which that's what I felt like. And so one of the key things about this particular story is I was talking to my son, who was 28 at the time, and I won't use the language that I was using, but I was complaining about, losing everything and working 15 years of my life really hard. I mean, we really busted tail to build this business, and we had a nice little thing going. And I was saying, I've worked 15 years of my life really, really hard, and I've got nothing to show for it. And my son looked at me and he said, "Dad, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure, fire away." And I guess I should check. Am I coming through okay? Are you hearing me? So he looks at me and I said, "Yeah, fire away, man." He goes, "Well, what would you rather have, Dad? X amount of money or all the friends and network you've built over the last 15 years?" And man, that was one of the best questions I've ever been asked in my life. I had a total 180 in my attitude immediately because I started thinking about all the people and all the relationships that in that 15-year period, I could start naming them. And I may tell you, a couple of instances in particular, but.
Hey, Mark, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
In that moment, right before your son, because many times when I listen to people and we have conversations, like how heavy were you like in victim mode? Like, what was me? I can't believe this happening to me. I'm the only person. I have such bad luck. Like, were you in heavy victim mode at this point?
That's a great question, Brock. I had been through so much therapy, like previous to this particular instance. I had been doing inner work, for a while, and I was in a group with every Tuesday morning at 6:30 for 10 years, and I rarely missed. And it was with, there was 2 licensed therapists, and then usually 8 to 10 guys. And so I'd done a lot of work. So the victim side of me, any kind of that kind of attitude, I didn't really have because of all that work. Now, however, I'm not going to use the language I would use when I was discussing how bad I felt. Yeah, I felt really bad. And anger was something I had a difficult time getting to get mad at somebody else. But I was pretty hurt and angry. And when I said I've got nothing to show for it, it was with this kind of passion, and I've got nothing to show for it. And that's when my son said, "Let me ask you this question." And so it was just one of those flip the switch moments. I'll borrow that from Coach Burt. It was like, he really just, that question and what I thought of, because I was the front of that business. My business partner, who ended up going down this dark path and stealing everything, and I mean all of it. He was the operations guy and very good at that. And so he had control of everything in the back. And I was always out, smiley face, Mark, putting out fires with clients and going from both back and forth from both stores. We had a women's store and a men's store, excuse me. And so a lot of people thought I was, and the business was called Flip, and we did luxury consignment for men and women. And so I was the face. And so I ended up having the opportunity to meet all of our, almost, every single client that would come in. We had 15,000 consigners, but in the men's store, and about another 6,000 or 8,000 at the women's store. So, we were rocking, rolling pretty good. So all these people started appearing in my mind when he asked me that question. And the relationships and the people are way more important than the money. Now, I like to have money. You can't have a nice suit without money. You can't have a nice car. You can't fix something when it breaks unless you got cash. However, if you had to choose between the two, it's a lonely place to have a lot of money and no friends. So I really then started digging into this phrase, out of your greatest challenge comes your greatest opportunity. So I started looking at that difficult place in my life as the place where the opportunity would come. Out of your ashes, will come joy, and turn your mourning into dancing, those kind of things. So it would really just help me get a better attitude toward what I had to be thankful for versus focusing on what I lost. And so I also heard from Bob Proctor at one point in time, where if when you get up in the morning, if you write down 10 things you're thankful for every day for 30 days, you'll be amazed where you're at in a month in your mindset. So I began to think about those things, think about those people, and they started popping back up into my life as I would be out in Nashville. If I go out to, go get a drink or go get dinner or go out dancing or whatever, people from the stores and my, past 15 years of doing business would pop up, in public, and we would talk, and I'd get it. I had a mailing list, so I had a chance to email everybody and kind of explain my side of things to the people who, really knew me well. Because it appeared to the public like I could have been the guy in charge that lost everything, because I was the face of the business. So there was a little bit of intrepid spirit in me to go out and face somebody that had seen me at the store, and then them maybe thinking I'm the one that went down this dark path and screwed everything up. But I got an opportunity to be out and talk to people and go back into those relationships. It was really what pulled me out of that darkness. And if it does, do you on this?
Sorry,
That's okay.
I was trying to unmute myself on here.
That's cool.
What was your question?
Do you on this podcast, do you do questions and answers, or is it straight up me talking, or if somebody has?
I mean, if somebody has questions, they raise their hand, or
Okay.
it's always engagement. We always love engagement from people. One of the things that I would like, so how long was this period? Like, when you say you went out to dinner, you're emailing people, you're trying to go through this, this is not a light switch type of thing. Like, oh yeah, let me, one day I'm this and the next day I'm fine again. I mean, you went through the say consulting, but the counseling, you go through all your mindset shift. I mean, I can imagine, like, when you wake up and you have nothing, and you're going through this challenge and this turmoil, and to wake up every single day. And I love Bob Proctor and Eric Thomas's. Bob Proctor was one of Eric Thomas's mentors. But like, you do the 30 days of gratitude, but like, how is your mindset in this? I mean, when you have no money, and I emphasize financially right now because of where the economy is and where people are using credit cards and where we are in financial debt and the challenges that people are facing in today's season of society and where we are. But like walk me through like that time period. Is it 1 year, 2 years, 5 years? Like, how did you get up every morning and keep plugging at it?
Great question. I'll go back to a book that I read previous to this, which kind of set me up a little bit for facing some really difficult times. And it was a book called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It, written by Kamal Ravikant. which helped me be present in the moment and, not self-medicate to get out of facing the difficulties that were, that of losing that business and, that years of investment. And that was one of the most powerful things to me was a lot of my background. Like, I was a youth pastor at one time. I owned a funeral home at one time. I've had several different careers. And part of my faith background was, the scripture of love your neighbor as yourself. And I tended to interpret that. I'm not saying it was taught this way, but my perception of it was always put people first, sort of be a doormat in a way. And it became a performance thing for me, was trying to keep people happy, trying to, do the right thing and be the good guy or the nice guy. But I wasn't always being honest and bringing myself to either the relationship or to the situation that I was in. And I didn't understand until I read this book. And there's a long, long story to how this book came, how it helped me in my mindset and through a dream with my father who had passed away. There's some sort of little bit of mystical, that happened with that, which I, look at that as God leading me through it. And I realized that in order to love my neighbor as myself, I really had to love myself. I really had to appreciate the gifts that were in me, because if I didn't, I couldn't bring myself to the relationship fully. Couldn't be fully vulnerable because I was sort of hiding and lying about what I was really feeling in the relationship, trying to please somebody else, as opposed to bringing myself truly to the relationship and being honest. And you may be familiar with Brene Brown and her talks about vulnerability. And it was one of those things where I now started to be more present and more honest about where I was in that moment, which really helped me. And people were attracted to that. In my group therapy that I was discussing earlier, when I was going through that 10 years in that therapy, this part of this reading this book was in that process. And when
you said 10 years, correct?
Yes.
So like when people want to, like, some people, and I say some people, but like it's not 10 days, it wasn't 10 months. Like sometimes, guys, our lessons and the challenge we go through is there is light. I mean, and Mark, I'm going to ask you where you are today, but like 10 years is not a short period of time, everybody. And to see you, Mark, on this side of the tunnel, it just amazes to me. Like 10 years, I'm just like, damn. And I just want to emphasize that this was not a 1 year thing. This took many years to continuously have conversations with God and continue to grow. So whatever challenge and tribulations you all might be in, or like, know that there is another side to it. But I just wanted to emphasize that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because it works different for everybody, right? No, we all have our own sort of journey that we're on. And I look at this as a continual thing. Like when I was in therapy at one point, and my attempts at therapy and counseling in the previous to what I'm about to tell you was always about trying to get fixed. I was going in there to have somebody fix me. It was like, can you just fix me so I can stop screwing up my life? And it occurred to me during one of our sessions that I wasn't there to get fixed. I was there to learn how to be me fully on a daily basis, be where my feet are. We've heard, these little statements that we use to kind of, sum up, a concept. But it was so freeing. I wasn't broken that needed to be fixed, and it was not going to be any switch that was going to be turned by a therapist or by any one moment. It was going to be a process of learning how to interact with people and be honest and vulnerable. We called our therapy sessions sort of like scrimmages. If you've ever been in sports, and when you scrimmage with your team, you're in there doing battle sort of as you would with an opposing team, but you still were friendly because you're all following the same rules. Nobody wanted to hurt your first string quarterback when you were, scrimmaging. So you took it a little easier, but you still were running plays and kind of getting the feel of how it was going to be when you got in the real game. So this therapy was
I really liked that.
Yeah.
I like that illustration. That was good.
And so that's how we treated this therapy. We all knew the rules. It was a safe place to be vulnerable. We had 2 people in there that were licensed that were guiding this. So if it, got off the rails or somebody, got too angry or, could be hurtful to somebody, we knew we had, a structure to function within, which we called practice for real life. It was then taking those skills we learned in the group back out through the real life. And so through this process, I was in therapy before my business partner went down this dark path. So I had skills that I had built up that I didn't know I was going to need until the poop hit the fan, so to speak. A lot of poop, big fan.
Right. Well, this was in as we getting here towards the end. Yep. I'm still in awe about this, and I hope you're okay that I ask you this question here. But like, I believe you met the guy again. Your partner, you had another conversation with him later down the road, and this to me like just blows my mind. And the power of you to even have this conversation. Would you mind just giving us a share, like when you talk to him and what you kind of like, how you came to this position inside your heart, inside your mind, after the pain this guy caused you?
Let me clarify conversation with this. You may be getting another story a little confused because this guy I'll let him remain nameless at this point. He is still a functioning paranoid schizophrenic as far as I know, because it was crack and meth. And so, I mean, it was a really, really, really tough thing. Totally changed. So he and I have not reconciled as far
as, all right. Then okay, there was okay, I did get your stories mixed up. Then okay.
But there is another guy who was in that business with me that we remain friends, and that he actually stole some money from me, but then we've reconciled. And that's a great story of grace, forgiveness, and restoration. It's a beautiful story.
I remember you saying that to me. You're like, yes, I forgave him. And the reason why, it's just like, because it's so hard to forgive. The pain that people put us through and the agony and what they took from us. And when you said, I forgave him and we reconciled, and I was just like, man, you're an amazing person. Because there's, you pray for that. At least I pray for that daily, of give me grace, give me that, that feeling the Holy Spirit inside of me to reconcile with people. And for when you shared that with us and being part, I knew he was part of something. Yeah. I just think that's just amazing for you to share it. And somebody said that there's a question. Jay sent me, somebody has a question for you on the chat. I can't read it, so if somebody on the chat could read it, or if you see it.
Let me see if I can see it here.
Yeah, I raised my hand. Robin Nelson from Key West here.
Pastor, I love Key West.
Yeah, you've been?
Oh yeah, I've
right on.
Anna's Cafe on Symington is one of my favorite little spots. She is awesome. Best Cuban coffee on the island.
Symington Street, parallel with Duval. Well, Youth Pastor Mark, wow, you bless me, brother. How can you love your neighbor as yourself if you don't know how to love yourself? That got me. And I too was stolen from not too long ago. And my question is, how do you in your circumstance make sure that this doesn't happen again? I'm sure God wants you to be wise as a serpent and gentle as a dove.
Okay, here's something that, and Brock, anytime we need to cut off, just tell me if we get too long. But when I started really understanding how to love myself, which is a long process. That'd be another whole story, really. It's now, when I didn't really appreciate myself, I didn't trust my gut. So the yellow flags or the red flags that I was getting in a relationship or in a business situation that you know deep down there's something wrong, but I didn't trust myself enough to pay attention to that. I always figured I wasn't of enough value that my gut didn't make me make the right decision or help me make the right decision. I would let that go and pay attention to, I would let the other person run the show or make the decisions. And so once now I started to really appreciate myself and understand that I had some value here, now when I get a yellow flag, I'm working through and learning better to be able to pay attention to that, and then, either get counsel from somebody outside the situation to say, hey, am I reading this right? Or should I really, is there something here? Or is it just me having gas? I don't know. But I think once you really go through the process of working through valuing yourself, you'll be able to trust your gut feeling, and you'll be guided away from maybe getting screwed again. However, it could be that that's the situation that you need to propel you into the next move in your life. I think we'll always have challenges and always have things to face. And so that's why our personal relationships are so important. Does that answer it for you at all?
Perfectly. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
I love it.
I'm glad to be on.
I love it.
They
use the illustration many times. In order to move forward, just like an arrow, you got to be pulled back. And sometimes in our lessons that we're going through, and the heartache and the pain and everything else, there is a blessing on the other side. And Mark, as we conclude here on this Figured Out Friday and what you went through and everything else, and I appreciate you sharing it. Kind of leave us with something with this audience here today. What's the one thing you want to leave us with this morning?
Here's a quote from Bob Proctor. Perspective is the only thing that can change the results without changing the facts. So I think there's always going to be circumstances that are challenging, and it's not the circumstances that will make us or break us. It's how we react to it and what our perspective is. And the other thing that was really helpful for me was life is happening for me, not to me. So whatever it is in my life, whether it's being stuck in traffic, which everybody's, I think, probably has been stuck in traffic at some point, you're gripping the wheel and you're getting angry and you're like, why are these people in front of you get all tense. And I finally took the attitude of everything that happens, a pause, flat tire, whatever it is, puts me at the right place at the right time to meet the right people for my best future. And that's how I've gotten even little small things. So that would be what I would say.
I love it, man. I was listening to TD Jakes this morning. He was talking about timing is everything. Life is a process. And, what you just shared there is so on point for everything. And guys, if we can give Mark some love, put it in the chat. He's got it. Jay, if you could put his email address and his phone number, maybe Mark said something to you. Maybe you got some business problems. Maybe you got some entrepreneurship problems. Maybe you got something for you. And, he's somebody that I always ask our guests, like, do you mind if we put your personal email and personal phone number? And he's like, by all means. And so, Mark, I appreciate you offering your personal info. If there's somebody you want to talk to, I get the pleasure of seeing and talking to Mark pretty much daily, for sure weekly. And he's just a class act guy, somebody that you want to, we talk about people in your environment. We talk about people on your bus. He's somebody I strongly recommend and reach out to. He's part of the Coach Burt with myself and others that are on here today. And so, Mark, I appreciate you, man. A bunch of people put some stuff in the chat. I appreciate everybody for being on here on this Figured Out Friday. And Mark, thank you so much for being here.
You're very welcome. I put my phone number and email in the chat there as just a comment to everybody. You can grab it there, or or Brock. You can always contact Brock and get it if you need it.
We did put it in the chat, so and Mark did too. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate everybody. We'll be back Mondays with Maxwell. I appreciate you all being on here. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay out of trouble, everybody. Have a good one. Be safe. Mark, thanks again, brother.
Thank you all. Have a good one. We'll see ya.